Hi, I'm Brianna. I'm 27 years old, and I have a degree in marketing. Right now, I'm on the hunt for a job. Honestly, it feels like a full-time job just looking for one. It's been a tough few months being unemployed, but I've got some exciting news. I've landed a big interview at a well-known marketing firm downtown called Owen and Company. It feels like this could finally be the chance I've been waiting for to turn my life around. Family is supposed to be your biggest support system, right? That's what I've always believed. My older sister Leah and I have always been close. We share clothes, borrow makeup from each other, and talk about everything under the sun. Her husband Lucas has always felt more like a brother than just my sister's husband. We're that close. Last night, the whole family was gathered around the dinner table at my parents' house. Mom had made her famous lasagna, which is honestly her best dish. While we were eating, I couldn't keep my big news to myself any longer. I was practically bursting with excitement. Guys, I have some news. I blurted out, practically bouncing in my chair. What is it, sweeties? Mom asked, putting her fork down and looking curious. I have an interview at Owen and Company. It's happening this Saturday. I announced with a big smile. The whole room lit up with excitement. Everyone started congratulating me at once. Mom immediately started planning what I should wear for the interview. She loves getting involved in things like this. Dad looked so proud. I thought he might actually burst with happiness. But then there was Leah. She smiled at me and squeezed my hand, but her smile didn't quite feel right. It didn't light up her face the way it usually does. That's great, Bree, she said, but her tone felt a little off. It was like there was something behind her words that she wasn't saying. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it bothered me a little. As the night went on, I started noticing more small things. Lucas, who's usually talkative and cheerful, was much quieter than usual. He just kept pushing his food around on his plate. When the conversation shifted to money, which always seems to happen when you're unemployed, I saw Lucas and Leah exchange a quick look. It was a strange mix of emotions, worry, guilt, maybe even frustration. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it stuck with me. Later that night, I was sprawled out on my bed, still thinking about everything. I decided to call my best friend Nikki, or Nick as I like to call her. She's the person I talk to when I need to sort out my thoughts or just get some encouragement. Nick, this could be it, I said, my voice full of excitement. This job could mean everything, a steady paycheck, a fresh start. Okay, maybe I'm not getting a corner office right away, but you know what I mean. Nick laughed on the other end of the line. Girl, you've got this in the bag, she said. Just breathe and stay calm. You're going to do amazing. I know, I said, trying to reassure myself as much as I was her. But I'm still nervous. This feels so big, and I really don't want to mess it up. Nick kept cheering me on, reminding me that I've worked hard and that I deserve this opportunity. Talking to her always helps me feel more confident. By the time we hung up, I was feeling a little less overwhelmed and a little more ready to face what's ahead. Even though I'm excited, there's still that nagging feeling in the back of my mind about Leah and Lucas. I know they've been going through some things lately, financial struggles, maybe? They haven't really talked about it much, but I've picked up on little clues here and there. I just hope they're okay. I don't want my big news to make them feel worse if they're dealing with tough times. Right now, my focus has to be on Saturday. This interview could be the start of a whole new chapter for me. It's been a rough road, but I'm ready to prove to myself and to everyone else that I can do this. I can land this job and start building the future I've been dreaming about. Wish me luck. I rolled my eyes, even though Nick couldn't see me through the phone. It's just, Leah was acting so weird. And Lucas? He looked like someone had stolen his lunch money or something. Maybe they're just stressed about their own problems, Nick suggested. Don't let it get to you, Bree. This is your moment. You're right, I said, brushing away the uneasy feeling that had been nagging at me all night. Enough about them. Help me pick out an outfit for Saturday. Nick jumped into brainstorming mode, and soon we were laughing about what would make the perfect first impression. She always knows how to distract me from my worries. Before I knew it, Saturday morning arrived. It came so fast, I could barely believe it. I woke up before my alarm went off, my stomach full of excitement and nerves all tangled together. This was the day I had been waiting for, the big interview that could change everything. I got out of bed and went through my usual prep routine, but this time I gave it some extra effort. My hair was styled just right, and my outfit was on point. I had laid it out the night before, a sharp blazer and classic black pants. I triple-checked my resume, making sure it was perfectly printed and neatly tucked into my folder. After grabbing a to-go coffee, I stepped out the door feeling invincible. The drive downtown was a mix of giving myself pep talks and taking deep breaths. I kept reminding myself, you've got this. You've prepared for this. When I finally arrived at the sleek, modern Owen and Company building, I felt a surge of confidence. This was it. My chance. Standing outside, I took one last moment to smooth my blazer and whisper to myself, you've got this? Then I walked inside, ready to shine. The receptionist, a sharply dressed woman in her 50s, greeted me with a polite smile. But something about her eyes didn't match the warmth in her voice. It was like her smile was just for show. I couldn't help but feel a small red flag waving in the back of my mind. Miss Grace, please have a seat, she said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. Thank you, I replied, trying to sound calm and professional. Once I sat down, she slid a folder across the desk toward me. Her face turned serious as she said, we have some concerns to address before we begin. My stomach twisted. Concerns? I repeated, feeling my confidence waver. Yes, she said, her tone all business. We received an anonymous email this morning with some troubling information about you. My heart sank. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I knew it couldn't be good. I'm sorry, what kind of information? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She opened the folder and said crisply, your criminal record. I blinked, completely blindsided. I don't have a criminal record, I stammered, my mind racing. She ignored my protest and continued, her expression hardening. And while we're at it, you might also want to address the substance abuse allegations outlined here. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I could barely breathe. Substance abuse? I managed to say, there must be some mistake. I don't have any issues like that. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she leaned forward. Miss Grace, we take these claims very seriously. If you're not going to be honest with us. Wait, I interrupted, panic rising in my chest. I'm being honest. I don't know where this is coming from, but it's not true. Despite my insistence, her face remained cold and skeptical. I felt trapped, like I was sinking into quicksand and couldn't pull myself out. The room seemed to close in around me as I tried to process what was happening. Who would send such an email?
And why?
None of this made any sense. I'm sorry, Miss Grace, but these are serious accusations, she said, standing up to signal that the conversation was over. We'll be in touch after further review. I walked out of that building in a daze, my mind spinning with questions and fears. My dream opportunity had turned into a nightmare in the blink of an eye.
Who would do this to me?
And more importantly, how was I supposed to prove my innocence? As I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel tightly, I took a deep breath and tried to calm down. I wasn't going to let this break me. I didn't know how I was going to fix it, but one thing was clear, I wasn't giving up without a fight. I'm being honest, I interrupted, my voice shaking with panic. There's been some kind of mistake. Please, can I see this email? The interviewer shook her head, her expression cold and unmoved. I'm afraid that's confidential, she said firmly. Look, Miss Grace, I think it's best if we end this here. And just like that, it was over. My big opportunity, gone in an instant. I stumbled out of the office, barely remembering to thank the receptionist as I passed her desk. My legs felt like they were made of lead as I made my way to the parking lot. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Finally, I managed to pull out my phone. Nick, I choked as soon as she picked up. My voice cracked.
It was a disaster.
A complete and utter disaster. Bree, slow down, Nick said, her voice steady and calm. What happened? I let the words pour out in a frantic rush, telling her every awful detail about the interview. The email, the accusations, the interviewer's cold demeanor, it all came tumbling out. Nick stayed quiet, letting me unload. When I finally ran out of steam, my breath was uneven, and my hands still trembled. Okay, she said, her voice measured and logical. Let's think about this. Someone has clearly set you up. But who? And why? I froze. My mind raced through the possibilities, flipping through faces and moments like a Rolodex.
Who would do this to me?
Who would want to sabotage me like this? I don't know, Nick, I whispered, my voice breaking. I just don't know. All right, she said, her tone shifting into problem-solving mode.
Here's the plan.
You're coming over to my place. I'll grab some ice cream, you grab some wine, and we'll figure this out. There's got to be some kind of trail, emails, phone calls, something. Her calm confidence steadied me. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Nick. I don't know what I'd do without you. Later that night, I showed up at Nick's place, clutching a bottle of wine like it was a life raft. Nick greeted me with a tub of Rocky Road ice cream and a determined expression. Let's solve this thing, she said as we sat down at her kitchen table. We went into full detective mode, armed with ice cream spoons and sheer determination. I opened my laptop and we started digging. The first thing we checked was my email. It didn't take long to find something disturbing. Someone had hacked into my account. They had been reading my messages and even sending fake ones. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. This feels so personal, I muttered, scrolling through the emails. It's like someone's been rummaging through my diary. Nick leaned over, her brow furrowed as she studied the screen. This is next level creepy, she agreed. I nodded, but before I could say anything else, Nick froze. Bree, she said slowly. Since when you have a Facebook page called Brianna's Wild Nights?
What?
I said, nearly choking on my wine. I don't have a page like that. Nick spun her laptop around to show me. Sure enough, there it was, a Facebook profile with my name and photo, but it was filled with posts that weren't mine. Wild party pictures, fake updates about crazy nights out, and even comments that made me sound irresponsible. I felt sick. This isn't me, I said, my voice shaking. I don't even know who those people in the pictures are. Nick narrowed her eyes. Someone made this to ruin your reputation, she said firmly. This has to be connected to that email. But who would go to all this trouble? I asked, feeling more helpless by the second. And why? We're going to figure it out, Nick said, her voice calm but determined. There's always a way to trace things like this. Whoever did this left some kind of digital footprint. Her confidence gave me hope, even if it was just a little. We kept digging, looking for clues in the fake Facebook account, the hacked emails, and even the anonymous message sent to Owen and company. As we worked, I couldn't help but feel violated. Someone had gone out of their way to destroy my chances at this job, and I couldn't understand why. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let them win. With Nick by my side and the truth on my side, I was determined to get to the bottom of this. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I stared at the screen, feeling a wave of disbelief wash over me. There it was, a fake Facebook profile using my name and photo. The page was full of photoshopped pictures showing me doing things I'd never done. Keg stands, smoking, partying like I didn't have a care in the world. It was like someone had gone out of their way to paint the worst possible version of me. My stomach churned as Nick, and I kept digging. But that wasn't all. We uncovered something even worse. Someone had made anonymous calls to Owen and Co., telling wild, scandalous stories about me that could have come straight out of a trashy tabloid. My mind reeled as the pieces began to fall into place. This is insane, I whispered, my head spinning. Who would go to all this trouble to ruin me? Nick didn't say anything right away. She looked as stunned as I felt. But then the answer hit me like a freight train.
No.
It couldn't be. Could it? The more I thought about it, the more the pieces clicked together. Leah's strange behavior at dinner, her hollow congratulations, the way Lucas had seemed uneasy. It all started to make a twisted kind of sense. The next day, I decided I couldn't let it go. I had to confront her. I waited until I could get her alone, and then I forced myself to speak, even though my voice trembled. Leah, I said, trying to keep calm, did you have anything to do with sabotaging my interview? Her eyes widened, and she immediately went on the defensive. What, Bree? How could you even think that? She said, her voice climbing into that high-pitched tone she always used when she was lying. I remembered that tone from high school when she'd swear up and down she hadn't borrowed my favorite lip gloss, even though I always found it in her room later. But this wasn't about lip gloss. This was so much bigger, and I wasn't buying her denial. Still, I didn't have concrete proof yet. That's when I decided to call Jacob, our tech-savvy cousin. If anyone could help me figure this out, it was him. When I explained what was happening, he cracked his knuckles like he was about to star in a spy movie. Leave it to me, he said confidently. 3 days later, Jacob called me back. Bree, you'd better come over. I found something, but you're not going to like it. When I got to his place, he showed me everything he had uncovered. The digital breadcrumbs leading back to Leah's devices. The fake emails, the anonymous calls, even the photoshopped pictures, they all traced back to her. I stared at the evidence, my heart sinking.
There was no denying it now.
But why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why would she do this? Jacob shrugged, looking grim. That's something you'll have to ask her. That night, I decided to walk over to Leah's house. As I approached, I could hear raised voices coming from inside. I paused by the living room window, and Lucas's voice carried through. He sounded upset, almost frantic. Words like payments and deadlines floated through the air. My stomach dropped as the truth hit me all at once. Lucas had a gambling problem.
They were drowning in debt.
Suddenly, Leah's behavior made a twisted kind of sense. This wasn't just jealousy or spite. She was desperate. My getting the job would only highlight their struggles. It wasn't about me, not really. It was about her fear of being overshadowed and her need to protect the fragile image of their lives. In her desperation, she had chosen to sabotage me. I felt sick. This was my sister, the person I'd shared my childhood with, the person I'd trusted more than anyone. She betrayed me, and for what? To cover up her own crumbling life? What are you going to do? Jacob had asked me earlier. Now, standing outside Leah's house, that question weighed heavily on me. Part of me wanted to storm inside and confront her, to scream and demand answers. But another part of me, the part that remembered all the good times we'd shared, felt crushed by the weight of her betrayal. I turned and walked back to my car, my mind racing. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but one thing was clear. Things would never be the same between us again. Leah's actions had created a rift that couldn't easily be repaired. As I sat in my car, I took a deep breath. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her win. I would pick myself up, rebuild, and find a way forward. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just a messy chapter. And I wasn't about to let someone else write the ending. When I decided to confront Leah, I took a deep breath. My anger and determination were building inside me like a storm. I couldn't let this go. It was time to stand up for myself and face her. As I drove to her house, my thoughts were racing. How could she do this to me? Could we ever move past it? One thing was clear. Things would never be the same again. I was done being a victim. This was my life, my future, and my story, and no one, not even my own sister, was going to stand in my way anymore. When I arrived, I stormed into Leah's living room, my blood boiling. She was sitting on the couch, trying to look calm and innocent, but I wasn't falling for it. Cut the act, Leah, I snapped, slamming a folder full of evidence onto the coffee table. I know what you did. Her face went pale, and she stammered, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I interrupted, pointing at the documents Jacob had uncovered. The hacked emails, the fake profiles, the anonymous calls to Owen and company. It was all you. Explain this. Leah's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. Before she could say anything, Lucas walked in. His brow furrowed in confusion as he looked between us. What's going on? He asked. I turned to him, my voice trembling with anger. Your wife sabotaged my job interview, I said. She's been trying to ruin my life. Lucas's jaw dropped. He looked at Leah, who was now on the verge of tears. Is this true? He asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. That's when the dam broke. Leah started sobbing, her words spilling out between gasps. I'm sorry. We're in so much trouble, Lucas. The debts, the gambling. I couldn't stand the thought of Brianna being successful while we're falling apart. Lucas's face hardened as her words sank in. His shock turned into anger. So, you try to drag her down with us? Leah, what the hell? I stood there, shaking with a mix of rage and heartbreak. Watching Leah break down was like seeing a car crash in slow motion, horrifying but impossible to look away from. I couldn't believe the person I had trusted, my own sister, had betrayed me like this. I trusted you, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You're my sister. How could you do this to me? Leah reached out to me, tears streaming down her face. Brianna, please, she begged. I wasn't thinking. Stay, we can fix this, right? I looked at her, my heart breaking all over again. Her desperation was clear, but so was the damage she had done. I didn't know if this could ever be fixed. For the first time in my life, I realized that even family can let you down in ways you never imagined. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, Leah, we can't fix this, I said firmly. Then I turned to Lucas, softening my tone but staying clear and direct. You both need help. Lucas, I'll help you find a support group for the gambling, but after that, I'm done. I can't stay in this mess anymore. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt angry, hurt, and betrayed, but I knew I had to move forward. I decided to reach out to Owen and company to explain what had happened. I spoke honestly and kept my tone professional, even though it was hard to admit everything. To my surprise, they were understanding. We were impressed with how you handled this situation, the HR manager said over the phone. We'd like to offer you another interview. Hearing those words felt like a second chance, a chance to reclaim my future. 7 months later, my life looks completely different. I'm thriving at Owen and Company, working on exciting marketing campaigns that make me excited to go to work every day. My mornings are filled with purpose, and my evenings are often spent laughing over wine with Nick or learning coding basics from Jacob. I've found a rhythm in life that makes me feel strong and capable. As for Leah and Lucas, they're in counseling now. Last I heard, they're trying to rebuild their lives. The family has kept their distance, though. It hurts to think about how things used to be, but I know keeping that boundary is the right choice for me. I hope they figure things out, not for my sake, but for theirs. Sometimes I miss the sister I thought I had. I miss the girl who braided my hair before school dances, who held me while I cried over my first heartbreak, and who laughed with me about silly inside jokes. But then I remember what she did, how she tried to destroy my future, and I remind myself that I made the right decision to walk away. This whole ordeal taught me something important. The people you surround yourself with matter. They should lift you up, not drag you down. And sometimes, those people aren't the ones you expect. It's okay to walk away from people, even family, if they're hurting you more than helping you. So, here's to new beginnings. Here's to standing up for yourself. Here's to realizing that you don't need to dim your light for anyone, not even family. Will I ever forgive Leah? I don't know. Maybe one day, if she proves she's truly changed. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean letting her back into my life. Some betrayals cut too deep to ever fully heal. What about you? If you were in my shoes, could you forgive your sister? Or is sabotaging your future an unforgivable betrayal?